Welcome back to another recording of Elevate Media Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Anderson. And like I mentioned, if you haven't realized, the show name changed just a little bit. And I'm going to mention it in this, probably the next couple episodes, just so people know if they're tuning in why that is. Because as entrepreneurs, we are always growing and learning, and we have obstacles sometimes coming our path, especially if we're not thinking about them. And when I started, I wasn't thinking, or I didn't think deep enough into the name of the show, and didn't realize that someone had already trademarked that name. And I got an email a couple weeks ago that they're like, hey, stop using our name. Smack my hand. And they said, we don't want to pursue any more legal action, so if you could just change things. And that's the route I decided to go, was just changing it. So Elevate Media Group, Elevate Media Podcast, I'm sure it'll work out for everything in the future. So that's why there's a name change, as a little asterisk with these next couple episodes. But yeah, enough of that. I'm excited for this episode. We're going to be diving into podcasting, video podcasting, and growing a business online with our expert guest today, who has multiple businesses, multiple entrepreneurship ventures going on, and just a cool overall guy. Adam Bird, welcome to the Elevate Media Podcast, man.
Hey, man, great to be here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. We were doing a lot of talking in the green room before this, and just a lot of cool similarities, a lot of cool things going on. And just, Adam's a really cool guy. So excited to kind of dive into, what he's learned through entrepreneurship, how he's grown, some takeaways that you're going to be able to learn from him. So buckle up, get your pens and papers out, take some notes, unless you're driving, and just listen. But to start, Adam, trying to do some more icebreakers, because I think when we talk on podcasts, when we talk out, on social media, it's a lot of, we're trying to add value. We're trying to give value to our audience. And so Sometimes they don't always hear personable things, things about us as people. So this is an icebreaker type question, because I'm interested as well. Oh, and this could be a good one. So I have some cards that I kind of pull from, because I'm not that creative all the time. What posters did you have in your room growing up?
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh man, can I remember back then? I remember one specific poster was a poster of a B-52 bomber airplane that I had across my bed, and then I had another poster of Larry Bird. Most people are like, who's Larry Bird?
Oh man,
like, I'm aging myself, folks. I'm a little seasoned in life, but I was a big Larry Bird fan growing up. So I those are the two that I remember.
And that you want to share about? No, just kidding. No, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition,
right?
Yeah,
right. That's awesome. No, that's cool. Growing up, I had a B-52 on my wall as well. I was big into military and things like that. I unfortunately couldn't go in. I had broken vertebrae in high school and things like that. So a lot of things physically couldn't allow me to be in. But I had the Constitution on the wall. I had the Bill of Rights. I had some quotes by Abraham Lincoln. And then I had Michael Jordan on my wall. And I still I'm a little young for that generation. I saw the tail end of things, but don't remember much of it. But always looked up to the clips. And same with Larry Bird, man. It's just a different, and we were talking before, like even before them, like the generation from World War II, but like even sports, then that's just a whole different generation,
a different breed. I mean, you don't see that type of sports
physicality, like heart. Like I don't watch sports that often anymore, because I get so frustrated of people flopping or crying about like getting tapped. Like I was raised by a brother who was 10 years older than me, so like that's how we played soccer, like physical, like so like the flopping and the crying about things and getting carried out because of the cramps, like I can't, it just irritates me.
It's a different type of athlete back then than what you get today, for sure.
And I think that ties over to some in business, athletics. Even if it wasn't athletics, I know you were in the military, which thank you for that, for your service there. And uh, you kind of set you up to have a different mentality with business, I think, because starting a business not for the faint of heart. It's not easy. It can be simple, but it's not going to be easy. So what like with your journey with both building? I mean, you have multiple companies: Heroes Media Group, beverage, clothing brand. Like, how did having that type of mindset or that frame of reference growing up, how did that help you, do you think, starting these ventures?
You know, here's the funny thing about it. Growing up, I didn't have that. I didn't have
Okay.
that mindset. My mindset was I was gonna be an athlete. I was good at baseball, and, you know, that lasted till about junior high, and then we moved, you know, I grew a Midwest kid, and then we moved to Arizona, big city. Um, all of a sudden, I was somebody in a small town and became a nobody in a big town, and I lost myself.
Mm,
So I didn't have that mindset of I'm gonna own a business or anything like that until probably around graduating high school, you know, my first year of college, was like, someday I'm gonna own my own business. And a couple years, short years later, I started a landscaping business, and I was like, you know, building retaining walls and planting flowers for the old ladies in town, and then I would do snow removal in the winter times up in this was in northern Arizona, Flagstaff at the time. I kind of liked like being your own boss. So that's kind of how it slowly like the seed was planted then. But then
mm,
there were so many things that happened in life. You know, I had several corporate jobs that I did very well at. You mentioned I was in the military. I was in the military for 9 years, did a deployment to Iraq in '03. I got out in 2007. And at that time, I had just been laid off from a good paying job, wasn't sure what I was gonna do, and I started getting this voice in the back of my head, and I'm not crazy according to my last set, but, the voice was saying, like, "Don't rely on somebody else's, you know, because you know what can happen. You did well with this company, and they laid you off anyway, and you had no
yeah,
control over that." So
yeah.
then it was just like and I was a single parent too at the
Oh,
time, so I had
mhm,
custody of my son. Um, I wasn't gonna have somebody tell me what I could and couldn't do, especially when it came to my kid.
yeah.
So I took that, you know, leap of faith. I quit my last corporate job April 1st, April Fool's Day, for those of you that are wondering. Yeah, April 1st of 2013. That's when I took the leap of faith, and I haven't looked back. There's been days where
Wow.
I've tried peaking.
Yeah.
I was
Yep.
like, "This entrepreneur stuff is crap. I'm not like, I'll go back to but then I honestly, I start doing that,
Mm,
I'll get an email, I'll get a phone call, I'll get
mhm,
that punch in the gut from God telling you, "Hey, man,
yeah,
this is where you need to be. This is
yeah.
there's a reason why I have you here. Just keep faith, keep moving forward. Everything will work out."
That's awesome. Man, listening to you, like, just so many similarities between our stories, you know. Like, I growing up, I didn't think about starting my business. I didn't, I was like, "Oh, I can do soccer," and then I got into athletic training. But, like, it's the same thing in college, like, I didn't play sports, so it was like, "Who am I?" Like,
Yeah.
and just went through really bad bout of depression type stuff, and only I knew, really. And then, and kind of started in 2015, really getting into personal development and listening to people podcasts, and I was like, "Oh, wait, there's more out there."
Yeah.
There's more out there than just a corporate job. And in this time, like, athletic training was just it's the companies I worked for were great, but there are companies, just athletic training sucked for me.
Right.
Like, terrible hours, people telling me when I had to be there and how I had to spend my time and how much money I could make, basically. And I got to the point where I was like, life's really short.
Yeah.
Why do I want to have people tell me how much I can make and where my time's going? And in April 2020, I took my leap of faith and quit my
Nice,
job to try
nice.
to figure out this business thing. And I'm the same way. Like, there's been moments where I peek kind of back. I'm like, man, it was a lot easier having a job. Not necessarily like, because you just go in and you do what you're told and it's boom, boom, boom. But like, it's not, in my opinion, not worth it, uh, because of what we can create and what we have access to and what we can build through entrepreneurship. And so it's the same kind of thing. You get those moments you're like, and then it's like something happens. It's like God speaks to you, or someone emails you, or something happens. You're like, okay, yeah, that's right. That's what I'm doing. My son, I get to watch him walk for the first time because I work from home. It's like, okay, this is why I'm doing it. This is why it's worth it.
There's certain things being an entrepreneur that things happen in life where you're like, if you were working your 9 to 5 or 9 to 7 in some cases, you would have missed that. I missed a lot of stuff with my son when he got into junior high because I was trying to grow the entrepreneur side, and I had to be at certain things to get the name out there and whatnot. I would have missed, but there's a lot of things I didn't miss. I would have missed everything. I'm a firm believer that I would have missed everything had I kept a corporate job, because you're on somebody else's time.
Yeah.
You're just going through the motions. And for me, it was so I walked in, I quit. Everybody thought I was joking. I left 20 minutes later, I get a phone call from my manager. He's like, "Hey man, where'd you go?" And I was like, "Yeah, I quit." He's like, "Oh, we thought it was an April Fool's joke." And I was like, "No, joke's on you."
Yeah.
I quit. And that was the first time I'd ever quit a job. And I woke up the next morning, April 2nd, and it's when it hit me like, oh, I got no money in my bank account. I got a house. I got 3 vehicles. I didn't think this went out very well.
Yeah.
But it was, you hear that saying, burn the ships.
Yep.
And that's April 2nd. It was like, well, here we go. Burn the ships. And it was like, failure is, you hear that failure isn't an option. Failure is definitely an option. In fact, welcome it, because that's where you're going to learn the most. And I'll tell you a quick story here because it ties into this, if I may.
Yeah.
I always grew up kind of self-doubting myself and whatnot. And I had my pop, he's my stepdad, but to me, he's dad. I call him Pop. I'll never forget. It was in 2015. I was thinking about shutting everything down and going back to corporate. I drove 2.5 hours to have lunch with my pop. And we're sitting at the bar having a beer and I don't know, eating chicken wings or whatever it was. And I'm telling him this. And Pop was always the type where, like, get a job, work at 30 years, retire, die, kind of a thing. So I go down and I'm expecting him to tell me, "Yep, go get a corporate job. You gave it a shot. Good luck. Get best. Blah blah blah. Pat on the back. Now go get a freaking job." And so I'm telling him that, and I'm just like, I think I'm going to quit and just go back to corporate. And he didn't say anything. He took a big gulp of his beer, and he kind of looked over at me. He's like, "I think that'd be a mistake."
Wow.
Now, this is a man who's, in my life, is the smartest businessman I know. And I'm blessed to know a lot of people. But my pop, you can't touch him with a 10-foot pole when it comes to business. This man's a genius on a lot of different levels. I'm expecting him to tell me to go get a job, and he didn't. That's when I knew I was on the right path with something.
Yeah. That's awesome. And it takes those moments sometimes, to people we look up to.
You got to have those people around you, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that's really cool because you went expecting one thing and it was a completely different, like,
right.
One of those moments, like, okay. Yeah.
Such is life, right?
Yep. Such is life, for sure. So with that, like, we both of us being in, like, the podcast space, doing our thing there, what has been a kind of a standout obstacle, I guess, on your journey to growing your businesses besides just, everything? Is there something that you remember, like, sticking out, like, or maybe what caused you to want to go back to corporate? Like, what obstacle was there that you were able to overcome?
I think the biggest obstacle is yourself, looking in the mirror every day. That's going to be your biggest obstacle. You're going to be your biggest critic. You're going to be your biggest person you got to get out of your own way. Yeah. You have to be able to delegate. You have to be able to build a team of people. You have to trust. You have to learn to trust. If you don't have trust, then that's something else. I'm gonna get on a soapbox here, so I'm gonna
Do it.
slow down because it's one of those things where it's not a controlling thing. I used to think I had a control issue, and I'll
Mm,
be the first to tell you, when you're a business owner, you wanna control everything. Stop.
yep.
Stop doing that. The sooner you can take a step back and you have your what I call your 50,000-foot vision, right?
Yep.
And you have, like, these I'm a vision guy, so if you're at 50,000 feet and you got all these little clouds going down towards the ground, fill those clouds with the people, like, "This cloud here is for marketing." Fine, get somebody that you
Mhm.
trust that can do that. That's one thing off your plate you don't need to worry about, right? Then you have something over here, production. I'm in the podcasting realm. I've been doing this since 2012. We're averaging, 5 episodes a week. That's a lot of episodes in the last decade that I've had my hands on, that's
Yeah.
over 20,000 episodes. So,
Yep.
I went finally 2 years ago, I went and I hired another producer. Oh my god, life got so much sweeter because I wasn't stressed out about meeting deadlines and all this other stuff.
Mhm.
And then what does that do? That allows you, the business owner, to go focus on building the business, not working the business,
Yep.
right? And I think that's a big thing when you're entrepreneurs and you're just starting off. A lot of people like, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. It gets overwhelming. Great. Understand that, recognize it, and then fix it. Do something
Yep.
about it. And if you can, you're not going to be able to afford a full-time staff right away.
Right.
And I'm not saying I was the type. I'm very hard-headed. I know it's a shock to people, but I didn't go get a business loan. I took a handful of dirt and I rubbed it together and I got a penny. And then I took that penny and another handful of dirt and I made a nickel. And then it just kind of slowly went that way. I could have went out and got a loan. I didn't do that because I didn't want that extra added pressure to make sure I was paying because then you're working for somebody else again.
Right.
So as an entrepreneur, have your vision, but you have to be able to be flexible. You got to be able to trust, and you got to be you. More importantly, you got to believe in yourself.
Yeah. I think, yeah, 100%. I think we are the center of it all, kind of like in a non, pedestal type way, but like we are either our obstacle, you know, or we have to have our own confidence. Like we have to be that motivation because we're not going to be able to get it from anywhere else. Like you could listen to a motivational speech, but if you're not confident inside, it's just going to kind of bounce off. But if you don't also get out of the way, like you mentioned, like even with us, like we've been Elevate a year and a half in, and like realizing the point, like I'm hindering the growth because I'm all the pieces, and so like bringing on,
You're
you know, out-
working. You're working the issues and the problems
yeah,
within the organization, as opposed to going out, solving them, and getting the people that can help you move to the next level.
yep. And that when we did that, it's such a game changer. Like, and for me, like a weight off my shoulder because I found people I could trust to do the things that I needed them to do, and then be able to continue to scale. Because yeah, we can only do so much on our own and by ourselves. Once you can start incorporating others and using their strengths, uh, things really open up.
Yep, absolutely.
So, like, how have you seen, obviously, being in the podcast industry, how have you seen the industry change since you started? I know that's a lot, I'm sure. And then we can maybe dive into where we see it going.
Let me tell you something. When I got this, podcasting's been around since 2005.
Hmm.
Most people don't realize that. And when I jumped into it, it was around 2011, 2012 timeframe. For us to do a podcast then and to have it hosted, there was only about three hosting platforms back in the time. Like Libsyn's been like Podbean was a very popular one, still is, but Libsyn was kind of the 800-pound gorilla, still is. But now you have over 20 different hosting platforms now, and there's probably more than that.
Right.
I don't know. Nonetheless, there wasn't much to choose from. To do a video podcast back then, you had to log into Google Hangouts,
Oh, yeah.
which then carried over to YouTube. This was before YouTube had its own live.
Oh,
So
wow.
you
Yeah.
had to log into your Google Hangouts, and then your show would be streamlined over where people could watch live on a YouTube channel. That was how I started back then. It is night and day difference. You know,
Yeah.
for many, many years, I've said that podcasting is 3 to 4 years ahead of its time still. I still hold that true. Maybe 2 years. Now video, I said video is gonna be the next thing. I said that
Yep.
5 years ago.
Yep.
And now video is starting to be more and more of a thing. And now you have like, these AI platforms and stuff like that. That's I still think that the AI part of it's probably another 5 or 6 years. As quick as it's growing, it's going to take
Yeah.
another 5 years before it really connects and really
Mhm.
gets things going. I think 20 years from now, not to sound like Tony Stark, but you got you have these pocket computers is what we like to call it, right? These cell phones.
Yeah.
I think eventually you're going to be able to hold a your phone and just click on it and
Yep.
you see
I'm
holograms
with you.
and stuff like that, like Tony
Mhm.
Stark type stuff. So yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
It- but it's been fun to watch the industry grow. I've been blessed to uh I've been asked to speak on big platforms about podcasting and stuff. And now I'm kind of it's weird. I'm kind of the old guy in the business because I've been doing it for quite a while.
Yeah.
Um, it's cool and it's only going to get better. It's you're starting to see more and more companies and businesses advertise with podcasters and stuff.
Yep.
And I'm going to go as far as to say this: if you're thinking about starting a podcast, do it. Everybody has something to say, and everybody should hear what you. There's somebody out there that needs to hear your message.
Yeah.
And that's whether you do have a business and you're talking about your business or you just simply are doing a show to help other people.
Yep.
Do it. Um, it's exciting. I think there's a lot to it's been fun seeing it grow. Um, but I'm excited to for what the future holds in
Ab
this industry.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think it's cool. Like I said, I started listening, 2015, just random podcasts. Lewis House School Greatness was the main one I listened to back then. Um, when I started, and then 2019, I started my show, which has grown into what we are today. But from the get go, then I started with video because I could see the benefit by being on social media platforms and stuff, and seeing like I'd rather watch a video clip than like anything else, and so like
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I joke around and tell everybody I'm more audio because I have a face for radio. So it's one of those things. Nobody wants to see my ugly mug, but it's one of those things. If you're building a business, it's like do the audio. Well, if you're doing the audio, you there's only an extra step to do the video, and
right.
then when you do the video, you can extract the audio from it. So now you're kind of killing two birds with one
Yep.
stone anyway,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So
Yeah, it made so much sense, and like, so that's what we've been doing like since the beginning of our creation, I guess, and like, and I just see it continuing, like being such a critical piece in the brands, big, small, or starting out because of that asset, be able to break down the video into so many pieces. And I don't know if, and I'm sure you probably saw, but how YouTube is now integrating podcasts into their platform, and it's gonna be, like, added into the YouTube Music and stuff and things of that nature coming out. I haven't looked. I literally just saw about this today, through Buzzsprout's newsletter, but, um, it's another reason that people need to get into it and use it as a tool, and to be able to give more value to their audience because of that.
yeah, I've been putting my podcast on YouTube
Yep.
since 2012.
Yeah.
And at the time it wasn't doing video, but now, prior to YouTube doing this whole shift, you can put an image up there or switch your
Oh,
images.
yep.
And here's the other thing, it depends on how fancy you want to get.
Right.
Two, those that are listening are like, oh, that's they're making it sound easy. It can be.
Yeah.
It could be and it also could be a lot of work depending on
Mhm.
how fancy you want to get with
Right.
stuff, you know.
Yep.
But yeah, I think like I said, there's only going to be a time. There's eventually going to be a time where you can just, you know, click on something and poof, we're living in a society that we've become a very lazy society where we
Yeah.
can only consume so much. So I've seen shows go from, I used to do a show that was 2 hours long on a Saturday, and now then I went down to an hour. The average drive time in the United States as of 2020 was, well, pre zombie
Right.
apocalypse, yeah,
Yeah.
pre-zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
The average drive, we'll say 2019, the average drive time in 2019 was 26 minutes. That's the
Yep.
average drive time in the United States. That's where most people were consuming their podcasts, was their drive to and from work or at the gym, or if they're in the house cleaning.
Yep.
So
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of like the metric we use for people too. Like, how long should an episode be? And I'm like, well, it depends. Like, how long are your audience members driving or
right,
doing tasks at home
right.
on average that they're going to be able to listen? Because that's really, I mean, they can do it when they work out and things like that. But if they're truly going to listen, like, when are they most focused on it?
And it depends on the content that
Hmm.
and that could vary
Yeah.
per episode. I mean,
Hmm.
you might have one episode that's 10, 15 minutes long. You might have one that goes an hour long if you have a
Right.
guest that's you're getting into conversation and it's going on. So
Yep.
you got to be flexible with that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So from your perspective, we're talking about podcasting, video podcasting, and we both, this is our bread and butter, I guess you could say. From your perspective, what would be what would be the number one tip you would give brands starting out with a podcast going forward?
You got to start. You sit there and talk about it until the cows come home. Seriously, that's the big.
Yeah.
It's the biggest thing. People are like, "I'm going to start a podcast." Yeah, okay, I'll see you in 6 months, because
Right.
that's how long it's going to take you to really get it going. And I'm not saying that to be rude. I'm saying I've been doing this a long time, people. Like, this is what I've seen and collected over the years.
Yep.
If you have let's say you're a business and you're wanting to start a podcast, have everything set, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to go out and buy these, a $20,000 studio or
Right.
anything like that. I mean, you can buy a few decent microphones and a mixer or your computer or whatnot, and you can do it you can do a nice setup for under $1,000
Yep.
easily, and do that to get started, because then you're not spending a whole bunch of money on starting something, and then a month or two down the road you're like, oh, I'm not really going to do this anymore. Well, congratulations, you just pissed away a whole bunch of money.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's funny, we talk to people about their, I'll just start recording my phone with my iPods. And I'm like, you can do that, but like, just from our perspective, like,
Yeah.
why are you doing this? Like, is it just a hobby to share with people and you don't care?
What's your purpose?
Yes.
What's your purpose? If it's a hobby, great.
Yeah.
Here's the one thing I'm going to tell you: whether it's a hobby or you're doing this for a living, or you got sponsors already lined up, or whatever the case may be consistent. And this has been my
Yes.
Achilles heel, and I'm calling myself out on this, and I'm being completely transparent with you guys.
Right.
I used to think I had to sit down every Tuesday and record an episode for that week.
Oh yeah.
That's hogwash. You don't
No.
need to do that. Hogwash. Did I say that right? Anyway, now I tell a lot of the shows that are on our network right now, we got over 40 of them. I encourage them to pick 2 days out of the month
Yes. I know where it's going.
front load the crap out of it. Listen,
Yes.
your day is Tuesday.
Oh my
Great.
God.
You
Yes.
block 4 hours out of your day on that day, and that's all you're doing. Back-to-back interviews. You're gonna be tired by the end of the day. Great. But let's say you have, if you 4 hours, and let's say
Yep.
your show is an hour long. Great. Listen, you just did 4, and you do a weekly show. That's a month worth of
You got a
content
month done. Yes.
in one day. And then
Yeah.
you do the same thing next week. And then
Yep.
guess what? That's 2 months now. that
Yep.
You've done in 2 days. You've done 2 months worth of content. If you can do that religiously for 90 days, I challenge you guys, do that for like 6 weeks. That's it. I'm challenging you people to do it for 6 weeks. Do you imagine you would have over a year's worth of content done?
Yeah. Yeah.
In less than 6? You could take the rest of the year off and schedule those shows.
Yep.
Now, here's the thing. It doesn't always work that way.
Right.
Why? because you're going to have events that come up. You'll have people that come in and like, hey, can you do an interview? I got this book. Here's the beauty of front loading everything. Now you
Mhm.
got everything in the queue. You got stuff in that's brewing and whatnot. Hey, I got this author that just launched a show. Great. We're going to put him in next week's show. Well,
Yep.
but Adam, what about all this other stuff that I have in the queue already?
Move
Well,
it.
how many people know that you have all this stuff?
Exactly.
Just you, right? Right. Okay.
Yep.
So adjust
Yep.
and move forward. But
It's
that's the beauty of this.
it's a game changer. Like
You
the
I guarantee those of you that are listening that want to start a podcast, you will make
Mhm.
this harder than you really need it to be.
Yep.
Doesn't have to be at all.
Right.
Trust
Yeah.
me.
That's like when I started my show, like I was, you know, recording sporadically. Like, okay, so they're gonna do it this day and this day, and then it was when I first started, like it was like me catching. Okay, now I got to edit this, and it just got really, really old because it's like, okay, now I need to record one for next week because I'm behind.
Right.
And that first month or two, I was like, this is not going to last if this is how it is going to have to be. Because I was still in my 9 to 5 at that time as well.
Right.
And I was like, this is not going to work. Like, and so I did just that. I said, I'm going to pick a day of the week and I'm going to batch record. And I just started doing that and opened up the calendar just for that day. And now it's just the first Tuesday of every month.
Yeah.
I record. And so today I have 7 episodes I'm recording, and then we
Good.
just push them out. And every month I just do that. And then some months I can add in some other people and just get ahead. And like now I'm sitting here thinking, oh, Adam just sparked interest in me. What if I just opened up twice a week for a 1 month, twice a week, and just got them all scheduled there? And that could be done for the year instead of each month. Like I'm
You know,
like,
and
maybe I'll
this
start.
is one of those. I say this because I have this is what I coach new podcasters
Mhm.
and shows that come on the network, and it works. I've seen it work.
Yeah.
Do I do it myself? Tried, but I'm also running several other businesses, so
Right.
I have to be a little flexible, and I'm
Right.
okay with that. But if you're not running several businesses and whatnot, what I'm offering you guys today is it works
Yeah.
because I've seen it work and it's been very, very successful for me.
100%. Like, because a lot of people listen, they're still in their 9 to 5. They're trying to build their side hustle into a business. They probably have family. Like, so life happened. Like, you have a lot going on. So if you can just schedule at least once a month where you're recording 4 to 5,
Yeah.
like just sacrifice that one day and get ahead.
That's a Saturday
It's a
or
Saturday, yeah. And then just do that each month or like twice a month. Like, get ahead, like Adam's saying, because life happens. You're gonna, I mean, I hate to say it, you're gonna have funerals, you're gonna have emergencies, you're gonna have your freaking basement start flooding on a Saturday because you get so much rain and you're dealing with that, like I've done for the last couple of weeks, and or you're gonna have good things happen. You're gonna be asked to go to an event. You're gonna be able to travel with your family. Like those things happen, which is why what Adam said kind of sparked interest in me because like now I'm being asked to speak at different events now, which is crazy and an honor, and I'm nothing special to be able to do that. But like, I'm like, okay. And if we're traveling more, we're about to have our second kid, like maybe I do want to have a lot more in the queue. And so it can, no matter what level, like Adam said, no matter what level you're at,
yeah.
you can always improve and you can always make it better for yourself.
Yep. You don't have to make it hard, folks.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. There's people like us, like myself and Chris out there willing to help.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask for help either, because
Right.
I think one of the things that you'll find in the podcast community, it can be competitive, but at the same time, there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help.
Oh, for sure. And that's what I found too. It's been a cool thing. Like people within what we do and other podcasters, like majority of them, you have the, the oddballs, I guess, but majority just love to talk about it and love to share it and, try to help other people do it because it is just such a benefit in general. Like if we can help one person start a show, even if it's just giving them the motivation, they listen to this episode, they hear us both and they're like, oh, I'm going to start, and they do it. Like the positive impact now that they're making, we had a small bit to play into it.
Let me piggyback on that real quick, because you brought something up important. And I want it to people to really resonate with it. The positive impact. You said positive. Podcasting is the new entertainment.
Yep.
If you look at take a history, right? Here's a history lesson for everybody. Prior to the radio, you had like the newspaper and stuff, right? The Pony Express come out with
Yep.
newspaper and stuff like that. Then the radio came.
Yep.
So then the newspaper slowly was still there, but then the internet happened. When the internet happened, newspapers started fading away, right? You still had radio though.
Yeah.
Well, now radio, terrestrial radio, for those of you that aren't familiar with the term terrestrial radio, is like you have a transponder somewhere on a tower and it expands out to a certain area, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So you can only get a certain area, right? So if you live outside that area, you can't hear what's going on.
Right.
The internet has taken, or satellite radio kind of
Yep.
is taken over the terrestrial radio. Well, podcasting and internet entertainment, we'll say, is taking over all of that stuff.
Yeah.
You're looking at the fall of mainstream media because this is the new media realm. It's call it evolution, call it whatever you want. I don't care. But you look at it and it's like, this is the new thing. This is what the future is. And here's the other thing. The reason why I think the positive is such a big thing. That's why I started doing media to begin with. I'm sick and tired of the mainstream media, the corruption, the political, all of the negativity that you hear. Now this allows us, the people, to take back some of that control and dictate what goes out.
For sure. Yep. I love it. Yeah, I'm with you there. And it's also like, not only can you have a positive impact by sharing your story or share what you've learned, but it opens up the door. Like when I started, I was like, I want to learn how to grow a business. I'm going to interview people who've been successful in that and learn from them, from a lot of people a lot faster. And that's how I started it. And now it's like, now we share together kind of like how each person has grown and things we've been through on the show and on these episodes. And then I have my other episodes that I share kind of just solo. It's like, it can morph and change along with you and still provide that value and that positive, place for people to come.
Right. Yep.
So I love that. And this has been a really good conversation, Adam, and I appreciated everything you've shared so far. I've been asking, or I just kind of started asking this one, and I'm curious to hear your response. If you could sit down for an hour or two at lunch with anyone, dead, alive, or even a fictional character, and just kind of dive into topics, pick their brain, ask questions, who would it be and why?
Yeah, I've been asked this question before.
Yeah.
And I'd want to sit down with Jesus Christ.
That'd be a hefty conversation for sure.
Oh,
that'd be good.
Like, and it would be a hard one, I think, because it's like, do you ask him questions about, what was it really like? Because I'm reading it in the Bible, and this is, or you just like, listen, I need you to like tell me what it is you want me to do here.
Yep.
Kind of a thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I use the term Christian very loosely because I think it's been but for me, I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe he died on the cross for our sins. That's my belief. That's Adam Bird's belief. If you don't believe that, that's fine. I have plenty of friends that don't believe that.
Yep.
It's on you. I'm not here to judge anybody. I share that because that's me being transparent, and that's what works for me. I would like to sit down because there are definitely some questions I would want to ask.
Yeah.
But I think that would be, that'd be cool to sit down and have a conversation with Jesus face to face.
Yeah. At least where we're living. Eventually we'll get to, but it'll be different. I think, that's awesome. That's really cool. And, I'm a believer as well. And I think that would be a really interesting conversation. And a lot of questions you could ask.
It's
cause that would be,
there's probably some you ask and you're like, you know what? I don't know if I want to know the answer to that.
Right. Exactly. So cool. I love that answer. So you had to kind of wrap things up. I know earlier you said just start. But if you could, I guess, one motivational thing to end and wrap things up, what would be kind of that motivation to people listening, thinking about starting a show?
Motivational. You know, don't do it for the money.
Mm,
Have a purpose. First and foremost, have a purpose. If you're unsure of your purpose, get clear on what your purpose is. And I say don't do it for the money. You should never do anything just for money. Don't
right.
chase the dollar because you'll chase your tail the rest of your life and you'll be miserable. I promise you that.
Hmm.
Speaking from experience, I used to chase the dollar. You're always stressed out. This and that, blah 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 blah. When you change your mindset and you focus on what your purpose is in life, everything else in life falls into place. The money will be there. Things will happen. You'll meet the right people. Have your purpose. Know what your purpose is. With purpose, profit always follows.
Mm,
And let me add to that is if you believe in the message and you want to, if you're trying to start a podcast and you haven't started, jump,
yeah.
jump. Because here's the thing: you'll never know until you try it. Go out, and start it with your phone and some earbuds, or go get a Yeti mic or whatever. I'm not promoting Yeti. I'm
Right.
affiliated with them or in any way, shape, or form. But just buy a microphone or just sit down and start recording
Yeah.
and see if it's something that you get into. And then that way, that will help you decide whether or not it's something that you want to move forward with.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great way to round this out. And again, Adam, appreciate you being on and sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Where's the best place people can find you?
Hey, we're on Instagram. You can find me personally at Mr. Adam Bird. That's BIRD. Or you could check out my companies if you don't mind. I'll plug those.
Yeah,
real
go
quick.
ahead. Yeah.
All the social media platforms at Heroes Media GRP or at HMG Beverage on all the social media platforms. So, Chris,
Awesome.
I really appreciate it, man. Thank you for the
Yeah,
opportunity.
absolutely. Yeah, thanks for being on, and everybody make sure you get connected with him. Cool dude, doing a lot of great stuff. And again, Adam, thanks so much.
Thank you.